We're excited for the 2011-12 season. We're definitely looking for, it was funny, I was thinking about today, we were picked 8th in preseason a year ago, finished 4th, and I'm thinking we're picked preseason 4 this year. We can do the same kind of jump from where we were picked. We definitely want to be in the hunt for a championship this season. So for me, I think, again, with the new rule, being able to start practices earlier, have an extra couple weeks in terms of being able to spread that out, I feel very ready to open next weekend. We're really expecting stronger success at the front end this year. Last year, I think we were looking for development during the non-conference portion. This year, we're looking to put some wins together and really have a good non-conference portion of the schedule leading into conference play and expanding our depth, expanding our rotation, really solidifying that by the time we hit January and into league play. But I do look for some early season success out of this team. I was not surprised at how well Shelby Romine played a year ago, and maybe that's because we've had a history of having some very strong freshmen that have produced some very good things. I just have a lot of belief in her. I think she's a great athlete. I think she's a hard worker. She works as hard every day at practice and preseason as what she does during the year. And she's tough. She's physically tough. She's mentally tough. And I think those kind of players can make the jump right away. Obviously, we're expecting her to, or anticipating her kind of increasing her game this year, even stepping it up a notch further. In terms of scoring, she was a tremendous scorer as a freshman, and she could advance in that way. It would not surprise me if she was able to obviously not only match that scoring output, but score a little bit more. But really areas where I think she's going to make tremendous strides are handling the basketball, running the offense, running the team. I think those things are difficult for a freshman. And I think at times, more earlier in the season than later, she got exposed at times, too many turnovers. Now, as the season progressed and she got into conference play, that came down a lot. But when you see her this year, at least I have, fans haven't seen her yet, opponents haven't seen her. That's probably the biggest jump in her game, is her overall composure and ability to take care of the basketball and make even better decisions than she did a year ago. For us, in terms of this freshman recruiting class that we have in right now, I think our biggest needs were on the offensive end of the floor. We've been, through history, one of the stronger offensive teams. Our last few years, our offensive output has been down. Last year, we came back a little bit, but I'm still looking for us to be more offensive and even be able to transition and play the motion game we want to be able to play. And I think we've been able to fill that a little bit. I think we've got some talented offensive kids in that freshman class. I also think we were obviously going out and getting some size, graduating Joyce Novacek and Kosi Hyam, two kids that had not only played on the interior, but been a huge part of our interior game for the last 4 years. Obviously from a numbers standpoint and replacing those bodies, that was really critical. And we brought in a trio of post players, Mickey Impellizzeri, a 6'3" kid from Long Island, Audrey Dotson, 6'1" from Northern Virginia, and Jen Hyder, 6'2" kid from Atlanta, who all I feel are going to contribute right away and significantly as freshmen and be able to come in and really impact us right away. And then when you talk about scoring punch, certainly those 3 kids add to it as well. Amy Zahner, I think a tremendous offensive player. I think you're going to be hearing a lot about her the next 4 years. I think she's a very dynamic offensive player that can score in a lot of ways. I think every team acquires its own identity. Even years where I've had teams that return everyone, we've lost no seniors. It's funny that they're not the same team a year later. Based on their maturity, how people grow, and just the dynamic, it's always different. So I think in coaching, it's interesting. For me, once you have a system of play, you recruit to that system. I've always been up-tempo on the floor. I'll always be up-tempo. It's the way I like to play. It's the way I like to coach. So you've got to recruit players. That being said, I think any smart coach or veteran coach, if you've been around, you've got to adjust to some level to the kids you have. And I think that's the same in terms of your coaching style. I don't know if at this point, I think you are who you are, and I've learned you've got to operate in that vein. You can't be someone you're not, just as players' personalities. But that being said, I think you take the particular group, I think you take the needs. Are your kids young? Are they old? How do they respond to certain things? And you certainly shape your coaching, or you need to shape your coaching, I think, to your team. So while I think at heart, I'll always stay true to who I am, based on our X's and O's, and based on my coaching style. I think, again, as I would do in any year, you're working with the given team. The neat thing this year is that our upperclassmen are really allowing me to coach how I want to coach, because they're doing a great job of leading and setting the tone and wanting those expectations with our young kids. You know, in terms of a 200th, and I'm not just saying this in front of a camera, I've never been a person as a player, or certainly now as a coach, that I really never have been focused on individual accolades. So to me, it's even tough to even talk about them. As far as, you know, I think it's going to be one of those for me who I am as a person that maybe years later when I'm retired and I look back on them, maybe those things will seem, I would say more important, more special. Certainly special, but I don't know. I really don't. I don't think you stop and evaluate that or contemplate. At least I know I don't on those things. And really, to me, it's just about the team success. And for me, the most special part of last year had nothing to do with the 200th win, but how that team grew. And the fact, when I think of that season, 2010-11, it's about winning 7 of 9 down the stretch, and where that team was able to develop to, from an 8th seed preseason ranking to getting a 4th seed, winning a first-round game at home. I mean, that's really the only things that come to mind to me out of that season, and really how that team played down the stretch. You know, non-league scheduling is always really critical, I think. And if you look at teams and their journeys, and there's all kinds of different philosophies out there. For me, where I like to go with it, I don't want our entire non-conference portion of the schedule to be games that are such far reaches every single night. I think you can overdo it too. I think you can stretch your team too far and not build enough confidence. It really just depends. Are you young? Are you veteran? You know, I tend to, in more veteran years, with more veteran-laden teams, maybe load up that schedule even more. To me, though, it's always been about a mix, even with veteran teams, of 50-50 games, I would call them. Games that are, you're going to have to play well, you know, either way, home, away. You're going to have to play well to win them. But if you do play well, you've got a good chance. It's a 50-50 game. I think the majority of your non-conference games should be those type of games. You're not the favorite. You're not, you know, overshadowed by a large margin either. Just good competitive games where you've got to perform. But I think you should have a few really challenging non-conference. I think it's important. I think it's important for your teams to see that level, to see how those teams compete. They learn things. I also don't want it to be teams where we're going to be losing by 50. Again, that's my philosophy as a coach. It doesn't mean it's right or wrong. I'm not so sure what you're gaining. But games that are going to test you and push you to a different level athletically, and to see a different level of competition, I think are very good. I think you gain a lot from those. I just don't know that you can have 12 of those on your schedule in the non-conference portion. And I also think you maybe have a few games where, depending, you know, if it's a 3-game-a-week schedule, maybe you've got some games where you are the favorite and you should win, and still you got to show up that night, but maybe they're games that, again, bridge you from a couple tough games to each other. So again, that's just my philosophy of how we've tried to do it. I've seen teams that have been battered down in the non-conference portion, seen teams that have had it too easy and not been tested yet. So I like this year's schedule. I think we've got a good mix. I think we've got a good chance to be successful. I think we've got some teams that are going to be very tough. You know, every night you roll up, tip up the ball, you've got a chance to win, and we'll go into those games with that, but they're going to be extremely challenging. I think we've got a lot of 50-50 games, and some games where, honestly, we should go in and we should win, but we're still going to have to perform to do that. So hopefully it's a good mix.
Quick question for me. St. Peter's comes in, one of those probably 50-50 games. How important is it to get a home game to start this season with this, for the most part, young team?
I think it's huge, our opener. I think not only our first home game and first game in general, I think that whole first part of the schedule was really critical for us. Coming off last season, coming off some success late in the year, graduating 3 seniors though, having 6 freshmen. I love that we're at home. It doesn't mean it doesn't give you a ticket, and our kids will understand that. You've got to show up, you've got to perform. But I love the fact that we're at home in Soika on our home turf, setting the year off that way. And then, you know, it's 3 of our first 5 are at home as well, and it's every other. So we're able to not, you know, it's tough sometimes when you're taking a young team and you're going out on the road for 4, you know, sometimes just that dynamic of being out on the road too long, too early. So I think we're really in a position from a scheduling standpoint to experience some success. Now, that's having the table set. Now you've got to come in and perform, but I think we're ready. I think this last week will be about just fine-tuning, and I think our kids are hungry, and I like what I'm seeing in them. So I'm very excited about the start of this season.